Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, so we do encourage lots of participation, and you can even hit some icons if you're loving what's being said. You can throw up some hearts and you can do some thumbs up, and then just like help encourage Chef Kareema to with our presentation. And so we welcome you to do that. Okie dokie. All right, if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and type in the chat, and otherwise, we're going to get started. So this session, as you see, is going to be recorded and it'll be shared and housed on our YouTube page. So if you have not already checked out some of our past food story sessions, you definitely want to go ahead and do that because they're pretty awesome. Our guests are fantastic. They have such amazing knowledge and they have great stories to share. So please feel free. Dallin will throw up our YouTube channel in the chat. And so you can always access those at any time to listen to other folks' food stories. All right. So we are good to go there. All right. So now that we got all that stuff out of the way, 1 second here. Yeah. Now we got that all the way. I am just really happy to introduce our guest storyteller for this evening. So Chef Kareema Beckles, she brings like a really unique Caribbean fusion style of cooking to the table. She's been cooking up goodness for for over 20 years and has really put her impression on the culinary food scene in Toronto with her catering company, Chef Kareema's Caribbean Fusion. So if you want some good, tasty food, she often says that you have to like spice to like her food. So if you do like a little bit of heat, you definitely want to check out her catering menu for your next functions because the food is off the chain delicious. So I'm really looking forward to this session and just learning more about Chef Kareema herself, her journey as a Black food entrepreneur in the sort of Toronto market, and just her take on Caribbean food culture. So this evening, I asked her, okay, what do you want to prepare? And so she has lots of really cool recipes in her, in her pocket there. But then she mentioned that she was really keen on presenting a Caribbean style macaroni pie. And so that got us both kind of thinking, macaroni pie, mac and cheese, what's the difference? What's the origin? So anyway, she's going to take us through like a little bit of a journey just about getting a broader understanding of that, impacts of different cultures on Caribbean society, as well as just how to make an awesome macaroni and pie. And so macaroni pie. And she's really generous to share that recipe with us. So at the end of the session, I will send out an email with the recipe that Chef Kareema shared, and then you will also have it, but we get to go through and learn from her how it's prepared. All right, folks, lots to cover today, so I'm super excited. Chef Kareema is here. I'm wondering, are you all set? She is set and she is here. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. It's like such an honor to have you share your story with us and just take us through this awesome recipe because her food, my uncle has this expression and that we've all adopted. So when something tastes really good, he always says it could eat. And so Chef Kareema's food can definitely eat. So anyways,
Thank you.
with that, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna pass it over to you and let you share sort of what you wanted to prepare today and just kind of get us started.
Okay, well, like you said, we're gonna do macaroni pie. My Trinidadian / Bajan version, and then we're gonna talk about the difference between West Indian macaroni pie and American baked macaroni and cheese. So I already parboiled the macaroni. I have the cheese grated, and I have all the ingredients here that Maxine has, and she's gonna share with you all. So I'm just gonna get it together, and you can talk and ask while I get everything together. Right now, I have the eggs in here. I have the evaporated milk, and like I said, all the other seasonings. So I'm just gonna get it together, and we can chat while we do that.
Absolutely. Okay, so this dish, can you walk us through what you are using to make this recipe?
Yeah. So I have eggs. I have evaporated milk. I have the cheese. I have 2 cheeses. I like really nice cheese. You can have 3, 4, 10 if you like, but I have 2 today. Oh yeah, and my breadcrumbs. Oh, do I have breadcrumbs? Yes, I do. Okay. Just to give it a little crunch on top. So yeah. So then I also have a garlic powder, onion powder, green seasoning. So that's the West Indian part, right? The Trinidadian part in there. Give it a little, all the peppers and onions and all that stuff is in there, but it's all blended. So you don't have to do all that extra work, right?
Yeah, you know what, we've talked a few times about green seasoning, and I said how every home has their own like sort of secret blend of the spices.
Exactly.
Without divulging too much though, Chef Kareema, can you give us an idea of what is in your green seasoning? Just a broad outlet.
Sweet peppers. We have this leaf called shadow benny. It's like it's in the cilantro family, but our one is like a flat leaf, right? So we put that in there. Some thyme, ginger, onion, and a little, couple of things in there too. all good stuff, right? So I put all the ingredients in here, gonna mix it all up, whisk it all together. I just bought this whisk. Whisk it all together, and then we're gonna add it to the already cooked macaroni, because I was trying to hopefully get it baked and everything so you guys can see it by the end, right? So that's the goal right now. So just gonna pour it in the pot, and we're gonna add most of the cheese to it. Oh, and I also added a little.
I was just gonna ask, so with this recipe, like, is your milk hot or is it cold? I know when we're making like sort of that American style mac and cheese, usually the milk and the cheese are melted together. Is that how you're doing it here?
I'm doing it right now, yeah. That's why I added it to the pot. So I'm gonna do that now. So it's gonna warm it up here as I add the cheese, melt the cheese a little bit, and then finish it off in the oven. So yeah, the milk does get hot.
Oh,
you could do it before that and add the macaroni, but either which way is fine. I just wanted y'all to see it. So
yeah.
So now we're just gonna add some cheese to it to help get into the macaroni, elbow macaroni. You can use any type of pasta, but the original starting was from elbow macaroni. Right? If you wanna, so there's 2 parts to it. So in America, it was Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd president. I did research, people. It was Thomas Jefferson that went to Italy, and Italy has a version of what kind of cheese do I like? Any cheese. This one is Gouda and white old cheddar, right? Okay. So that's what I like to use. And then marble or Havarti, any cheese is great, whatever cheese you like. So he went to Italy, fell in love with the macaroni pie, which they call it that in Italian. So he went back to America, where he had an enslaved child named James Hemings. So James Hemings and his family were brought to him when James was 9. By the age of 19, he wanted to like do other things, and he was able to talk to Thomas Jefferson, and he said, okay, let me train you so you can be my chef, right? So he took him to France to teach him how to cook the cuisine that he liked, because Thomas Jefferson was like a real foodie apparently, right? Came back, and they made macaroni pie. French fries was also popular in his home, fried chicken, and ice cream, and other things, but those are the things that he really enjoyed a lot of, right? So James Hemings and Thomas Jefferson is how macaroni pie in America started. And somehow along the way, it became just mac and cheese and then baked macaroni. Kraft macaroni and cheese started in 1937. There you go. about the American version of macaroni pie. Now the West Indian version was Barbados was the first island to have macaroni pie. It was brought over from the Europeans. Trinidad also adopted it because it's very popular in Trinidad as well, but it started off in Barbados in like the early 1700s. So when the Europeans came over, they brought the cheddar cheese to both the Caribbean and North America. So macaroni pie started in Barbados for the islands, and then macaroni pie for America started in the early 1800s. So the West Indians started macaroni pie.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
Right?
Thanks for the history lesson.
You're
So
I don't know if you can see that it's all mixed and all cheesy now and everything. So I'm just gonna put it in a greased pan, any casserole dish. This is I'm a chef, so this is what I'm using. But you could use a glass dish. You could use if you don't want to make any, if you don't want to have extra dishes, you could use a foiled baking dish. Anything you like, any size. This is the one I'm gonna use, and get at it.
okay, so once your cheese is melted, then you're ready just to add it to your pan.
Yeah.
You just greased it with a little bit of margarine or butter.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Anything you like. Yeah.
Okay. And so this is like a baked dish, and like what? How would you parallel it to like just a traditional mac and cheese?
So traditional mac and cheese apparently didn't really just come about until like 1930, the 1900s, and Kraft Macaroni and Cheese, the company, they started in 1937. Yeah, as a powdered, and I think it just became mac and cheese at that point. But most Americans bake their mac and cheese, which is macaroni pie. So it started off as macaroni pie, but along the years, we just call it baked mac and cheese.
That's awesome. All right, so does anyone have any questions up until now, either about like sort of our walkthrough history about the mac and cheese and the macaroni pie, or any questions just about the recipe itself? Does anyone have any questions right now?
Hit me, I'm ready.
She's ready, folks.
I'm just adding some cheese on top to melt. And if you want to have a little extra crunch, you can add the breadcrumbs to it. They didn't do that back in the day, back in the 1700s or 1800s. They didn't add the breadcrumbs. I think that just came along as people start to get used to the recipe and do what you like. So all recipes, once you get used to something with your recipe, you can make it into anything you want. Like if you want it right now, you can add meat to this. You can add vegetables to this. I like just a straight macaroni pie, but if you want to do a one-pot meal, you could do that. It would be more like a deluxe macaroni pie at that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think officially it would not be macaroni pie if you add anything else to it.
Right. No, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think
okay, so I have a question for you. So somebody is just asking for the recipe and the ingredients. So I do have that I will share with you. And maybe what I'll do is we'll share it with you afterwards for sure. I can tell you quickly what is in it, and then we're just going to mail out when we send you the follow-up email, it'll include the email link to the video, and then we can also share with you what the actual quantities and the ingredients. I think that's the best that we'll do now. And then you can take your time and peruse. All right. So
one thing about the American version, right? When the Thomas Jefferson, when it started off, it was just only milk, cheese, salt, and butter. That's it.
Okay.
What they did was when they were boiling the pasta, they would have half milk and half water. So you didn't have to add the milk in after. So remember, this is when it's in a time when, even though the plantation colonizer, slave masters, I like to say enslaved. I don't like to say slaves. So the enslaved masters, even though they were, rich, I don't think milk was, something that they wasted like that. Dairy wasn't as bountiful as it is now. So they would boil it in half milk, half water.
Okay. Thank you.
I did my research. I told you.
You did. You totally did research. Okay, so I have a couple of questions here. So someone is asking, is this similar to like a gratin?
Yes. And yeah, it's milk or cream, cheese, and you're layering it. If I wanted to, I could have layered it with instead of mixing the cheese in it, I could still mix the cheese and then put on a layer of the pasta, then layer of cheese, layer of pasta, layer of cheese. You could do that too. So yeah, it's yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
Similar, similar.
I like, what's that?
I said similar, not the same,
Yeah,
but similar.
similar. You know, I like how you're saying kind of when you get comfortable with the recipe, then feel free to explore.
Exactly. Cough break. Like lasagna? Um, yes and no. Uh, yes, because it's pasta and cheese. Layering, because it's you can do it like a lasagna, but with lasagna, it's the basis is the meat sauce or a marinara sauce, right? So we're not going to make that saucy like that. It's not. There's no sauce, but the cheese is saucy because of the milk and the butter, right? And when and the heat, so it all melts together. You could, however, again, make the macaroni pie into like a deluxe macaroni pie and add meat to it. So if you did want to do that, I wouldn't use elbow macaroni for that. I would use like fettuccine or spaghetti, one of the um, stringy pastas instead of elbow pasta. And when you're making macaroni pie, you can also use spaghetti or penny pasta or like shells or the shell ones as well. But yeah, similar. Because it
Okay, so yeah, so here's the next question. This is one of my favorites. How do you feel about ketchup with macaroni and cheese or macaroni pie?
I'm okay with it, depending on what you're having as a side. If it's like fried chicken, then of course. But if you're doing like stew and then you're putting ketchup on it, I feel like the gravy is there, so you don't need the ketchup to give it that extra um, moistness to it. And if you make a macaroni pie properly, you wouldn't really need ketchup. But I'm not opposed to ketchup on macaroni pie.
Yeah, sometimes I don't
I
know.
have done. I have done it. I have done
Yeah,
it.
you know what? I'm a fan of ketchup, but on the macaroni pie, I kind of like draw the line. So I'm a hard no, folks. I'm a hard no on that one. But I think it's all about personal preference. All about personal
It is,
preference.
but there's some things that you know.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So as we're waiting for the macaroni pie to cook, I had a couple of questions for you. So you've been in this culinary industry for about 20 years now, you said. And I'm just curious, like, so what kind of challenges have you encountered as a Black female entrepreneur in this industry?
Well, being a black chef in general, black chef, and then a woman on top of that is quite challenging because it is a male-dominated um, industry, and it's more for me. It was more sexist instead of racist. I feel like they were definitely in the boys' club, like they were just locker room talk. I'm okay with it because you know what? If there's 20 men, one woman, is gonna happen, right?
Mhm.
They along the way in the years, um, some of them did, say, "Are you offended? You're not offended." I'm like, you know what? Nothing was overly off the top, but yeah, like I said, for me it was more a sexist kind of thing. Like, oh no, let me chop that for you. I could chop it myself.
Mhm.
Oh, let me go on the grill. I can grill.
Right.
Because they want to put women more on like the lighter stuff, like the salads and the pastries and whatever.
Yeah.
I remember when I was living in Oakville, I had one back at the house manager, the kitchen manager, and she specifically put me on the grill. I was like, no, no, no. She's like, you're gonna learn how to do grill. because back then everybody wanted to go on the grill. So
Right.
I'm grateful that she pushed me to do that, because now I'm like, let me barbecue. Let me just touch
Yeah,
the meat and I can tell you if it's ready.
it's interesting that you said that because there's definitely yeah, sort of, especially 20 years ago, there's definitely those rules that were deemed to be more like that the sort of female chefs, and I encountered a lot of the same kind of barriers, like working in the
Right.
food industry, where sort of the higher up, more skilled positions were not necessarily deemed for those for female chefs to be working, but more things that required, I guess, a little bit more attention to detail and like delicate work. Those are
Yep.
the rules that were like assigned for women, like you said, like pastry, the salad station, the veg station, things like that. Um,
Exactly.
so through that journey, what led you to decide that you wanted to work for yourself as opposed to spending your time working within the industry for other people?
Mainly pay.
Yeah.
Mainly pay. Because when I started, um, I was making $11 an hour, and that was before minimum wage went up. This
Mm-hmm.
was back in like early 2000, which was, I guess, a lot back then. No, it wasn't. But they would want you to do all this work for $11 an hour for line chef or line cook, when the other chefs, the sous chefs or the executive chefs, weren't really doing a lot and getting paid a whole lot more.
Right.
I came to realize that I can make more money working for myself
Mm-hmm.
than working for others. So I started off slowly. I started to work still full time, and then do like weekend. I would cook and cater on the weekend. And then I went back and took a business course through Ontario government for small businesses, and in 2014. And yeah, it was great. And it taught me a lot of how to run a business.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm very, very grateful for that program. It's no longer around, but when I was able to do it, I'm very, very grateful for 2014. And I've been working for myself full time since then. I have kind of gone back and worked with others, but still predominantly myself.
Okay. Well, thank you. So when you decided that that was something you wanted to do, did you know exactly what style of cuisine that you were looking to create, or did you kind of like happen into this style? And maybe if you can share a little bit of, more with everyone about what is your style of cuisine and yeah, how it came about.
Um, my style of cuisine is based first on what I love. I like food. I love food. I enjoy food. But West Indian, Caribbean food first, and then other cultures after, and then I just fuse them together. Like one of my most famous dishes is a jerk chicken lasagna. I love lasagna. My favorite Italian meal. I love lasagna. And I had some jerk chicken left over. Hello, let me try this. And it turned out to be very delicious. Right? And now my style is more fusion type, but I still do uh traditional West Indian, and then traditional wherever. If you wanted traditional Indian food, I could give you traditional Indian food. If you wanted traditional North American food, I could do that. You know what I mean? Or traditional Italian. So I could still do all that because I'm trained. But my is more to fuse things that I like with other things that I like.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really strong way to create a model, because if you're going to be passionate and excited about the food that you're creating, obviously that's going to like reflect on what you do, and then the people are going to be responsive to the food that you
Exactly.
create. And so I have a great question from somebody else, and just kind of along the lines of what we're talking about, and they're just curious about what is your like favorite food? Like, what's your favorite thing to make or to create?
My favorite thing to create. Okay, let me tell you what my favorite dish is. My favorite meal. So my favorite meal is traditional Sunday dinner, Trinidadian style. Macaroni
Mm,
pie is in there. So there's macaroni pie. There's some form of rice. Um, Callaloo, Trinidadian style.
Yep.
A stew, either stew beef or stew chicken, stew fish, and like a roast. So there's like all the proteins are there, and a potato salad. You have to have a potato salad
Right.
on Sunday. So that's my favorite. Like if they said your last meal, Kareema, that's my last meal. Outside of that, my favorite dish is lasagna. I love a good lasagna.
Yeah. Okay.
Good
And so in your opinion, then what makes a good lasagna?
the sauce and
Mm,
the
and the
sauce
cheese.
and the cheese. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a good sauce, and it's not just tomatoes, it's how you season it. And it's not always overly seasoned. It could, sometimes a little rosemary, a little basil, a little, salt and
Hmm.
pepper can go a very long way. But then there are other times when you want to make a jerk chicken lasagna,
Yeah.
spice that up. So if you have a good base, a good marinara sauce,
Hmm.
and a good cheese, you gotta get the good. Oh, gotta get the ricotta.
Okay. You need
You have
ricotta.
to.
Okay.
Oh, you have to have the ricotta for sure. And yeah, so that's my favorite dish is lasagna.
Nice,
Thank you.
nice. I can feel that too. Like lasagna is very comforting. It's very
Right?
comforting food, right?
And
Yeah.
it's like a meal in one.
Yeah.
Just put a little salad there and a garlic bread and you're good to go.
Yeah. There you
Good
go.
to go.
I like the description of the classic sort of Trinidadian dinner. So
Yeah.
like historically speaking, so there's like you name like several components. So there's like the potato salad, the macaroni pie, you got some kind of stew in there. There's a callaloo. I'm not sure if we talked about callaloo quite a few times, but maybe we'll circle back and maybe you can share with everybody what that is. And I do often make the Trinidadian style callaloo because it is my favorite. Um,
Really?
it
I
absolutely
am
is.
shocked to hear this.
I am,
And
I,
aren't you Jamaican?
no, I'm not actually. So my cultural
Oh,
background is from Barbados, so we don't even have
oh, well,
callaloo as
that's
a
why.
dish.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
no, you don't. But because see, I feel like there's now jerk chicken. Yes, it is Jamaican, but now it's all over the island. Like they have their own. Like you have to make it properly. You can't just be like, oh, let me make some jerk seasoning that's not gonna be respectful and representing what it is. But like yeah, like macaroni pie did come from Barbados, but Trinidad really adopted it as well. I guess they probably had some of the same colonizers
Hmm.
or plantation owners. You know what I mean? Because they're not far apart islands. But then again, my maternal grandmother was Bajan, so we had macaroni pie in the
Yeah.
growing up. So yeah, the Callaloo. No, I don't think Barbados has that as one of the islands. I don't think so.
No, it's not a like a traditional, nor neither is like curry or even oxtail, but it's like those, like you said, those are recipes that over the course of the years have been like adopted into the cuisine, but they're definitely not like sort of traditional to the cuisine.
Right. I feel like it's when other islands, they come over and to work. So Jamaicans will come over to Barbados or Trinidad and vice versa. They'll go to Jamaica or go to Antigua or go to, Cuba or,
Hmm.
so you adopt different styles of food. But then it's also the colonizers. There is the Dutch, there's the English, there's the Spaniards, um, some Germans, and then we have the enslaved workers, workers. Well, the Indians were the workers. The black people were enslaved. So,
Right. There's a few different culture. Yeah. So there was like, so after slavery was abolished, there was still
abolished
like
exactly.
there was still like there was still like a course of time in which there was an apprenticeship period in which folks were still not paid for their labor. The idea was that that apprenticeship time was meant to learn how to do what they currently were already doing. And
Right.
then indentured servants who were from either like India, Pakistan, were also um, came over to the islands and as well from China. And they had a number of years, I think it was around 7, in which that they worked unpaid
Yeah.
but they were taken care of, and then afterwards were given their freedom to kind of just like live in the space. And so that's how you have like a few of the different cultures that have created what the culture is.
Right. And Trinidad has a lot of Indians, so the culture is very. We have a lot of uh, Indian inspired dishes that are now West Indian, Trinidadian Indian food, you know? So our
Absolutely.
Trinidadian curry is different to Indian curry, but it's still curry from India. You know, over
Right.
the years they definitely made it that way, or roti, you know, this, or you know, so certain
Mhm.
things. So yeah, yeah.
And so what would you say was the main in like the main differences between, like, so you're saying like there's the Caribbean style of curry, there's a Caribbean style of doing different things. So what would you say would be what differentiates these two things like from each other? From like an Indian curry, for example, and like a West Indian style curry.
I think it's, I'd have to research deeper, but for me, growing up with, I have some Indians in my family, West Indian Indians in my family, and friends. Uh, it's one is the smell, the scent is different. I personally think that it's a little not as strong as Indian curry. Um, that's one thing. And then it's like in India, there's red curry, green curry. Really, we only use like the brown one. We don't get all fancy, and we can do that, but mainly our curries is the brown curry. That's everything. But in India, there's a plethora of curries, right? That's their thing, right? So now you're gonna make me have to go research that. Thank you.
That's good. We always keep learning. We keep learning. Um,
Exactly.
so one of the things that we have been like talking about over the course of the year is the idea of legacy, our food legacy or our cultural legacies that we're passing on from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, being first generation Canadian, I know you have, I think, is it three children? You have three children?
Four. Four.
Four. So do you have any considerations of that? Like of how do you keep them connected with sort of their cultural roots while still giving them space to find their own sort of identity as Canadians, second generation Canadian?
You know what's so funny? My mother actually, I'm so glad she didn't just have a West Indian palate. There's a lot of immigrants that come over that only stick to West Indian food, and some that only stick to their island food. Right? My mom, thankfully, was very experimental. Me, not so much like as her. I don't eat duck, so I can make a mean curry duck though, but I don't eat it. But thankfully for she taught us different foods in the house, and then showed us different, like we'd go out to different restaurants and try other cultures, right? So I just did the same thing with my children. And then me going to school and being trained, I was able to show them even more. You know, I knew how to make sauces just because my mom showed me, but then there's a, you know, way to make sauces, right? So, and then when you can do that, when you can have um, when you can show your children how to take, say, chicken and make it 20 different ways, you know, and then you can take that, and then if you don't want to eat chicken, you can, you know, do a vegan option of those same things. Like I'm really trying to get them to eat more, uh, less meat, and you know, have more of a plant-based diet. But you know, they're pretty okay. They're pretty. They can all cook. Thankfully, they can all cook. So some better than others, but they can all cook. Yeah, I haven't died yet.
Yeah, well, that's a good sign. That's definitely a good sign. Is there a recipe? So you talked about like how that's sort of Sunday dinner with like there has to be the potato salad, there's a macaroni pie, there's the stew. Is there any specific recipe that you are really wanting to make sure gets passed along to your kids?
Definitely that. Definitely the macaroni pie, the callaloo, definitely um, the real comfort foods of Trinidad and Tobago. Just like a nice boiled dumpling with some curry crab, or like um, bacon shark kind of thing. Like show, you know, show them that. And when I make it, they clam for it. You know what I mean? They come for it. So I'm really try to keep that going for them. And if they call me up, mommy, how do you make this? How do you make that? And I'll go on a video call with them and show them, walk them through it, or I'll go over to their house and I'll teach them how to do it. So
Yeah.
thankfully, even though the second generation is still going, still
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, I really find that that's something that's very important, especially, I mean, on the one hand, we're really lucky, especially living in sort of like the GTA area, where we do have access to so many different cultures and so many different foods.
Exactly.
But food has this like ability to sort of ground us in who we are and
Mm-hmm.
give us a sense of sort of community and a sense of belonging. And
Right.
so like I definitely value that while we're in that space that we're able to sort of explore and to try all these different foods, just like right here, we don't even have to go anywhere.
Exactly.
So like I appreciate that. But then in the same time, it's like, how do we kind of keep our kids grounded and connected?
Right. And one
Yeah.
thing I really want to touch on, I keep saying that we had, different colonizers, but for some reason, people are very small-minded when it comes to the Caribbean and our food. Jamaica doesn't only make jerk chicken;
Right.
they make a plethora of foods. There's Chinese Jamaicans, there are Afro Jamaicans, there's even some Indian Jamaicans. Very rare. You don't see that those Indian Jamaicans as much, but they're there. And then
Hmm.
there was settlers that were Jewish in Trinidad, in Tobago, and Barbados, and Antigua, and Grenada. Like we have more than Trinidadians don't only make curry. That's not all we do. Barbados doesn't only make flying fish. You know, there's other things that we make as well. But West Indians have to come out of that mindset too. Like you don't only cook 5 items at home. You make all these other things. We have so many root vegetables as well. We call them provisions. Some people call it food. We have all these things that we can make a shepherd's pie, not just with potatoes. We can make it with sweet potatoes. We can make it with yams. We can do all these different things with all the foods that were brought over to the island
Hmm.
from all these different countries and people, right? So
Hmm.
that's one thing I like that you're doing this food stories because you could talk about how these foods came about. Like potatoes is not indigenous to North America.
Hmm.
That is not an indigenous vegetable that was brought over, right? And then even we got it, the Caribbean got it as well, right? Slave trade, uh, food trade, um, all that stuff. So I really appreciate that you have this the food story. Thank you, Maxine.
Yeah, no. Well, thanks for that. Did you you're absolutely correct. So like yeah, food moved around like quite a bit, and some of the flavors, a lot of the flavors that you see represented in the Caribbean, like the hot peppers and the Scotch bonnets and those ground provisions that you talked about. So a lot of them come from the west coast of Africa,
Right.
where a lot of enslaved people were brought from, and then
Mm-hmm.
they were brought over to the Caribbean. So you see a lot of that influence, and then the other thing is too, then you'll see that same influence represented all throughout the world,
Right.
any place throughout the Americas. You'll see that predominantly throughout the Americas. You'll see that same influence represented in many different countries, just
Exactly.
like highlighting and outlining the impact of African. The impact and the influence of African culture on many of these foodways.
Right.
Um,
Like look at ackee. Ackee is not. Is it originally from Jamaica? It's from the west coast of Africa. Like ackee, they just have it there, just drop it to the ground, and people just said, "Oh, let's sell it or let's take it over." And it came over to Jamaica, so it is Jamaica's national fruit and into a dish, which is very delicious, acting saltfish, or just acting if you like. But yeah, like look at that, like, and look how many years that has been striving, and growing. And then there's so many like yam, cassava, so many foods. See, Maxine, you gotta make this macaroni pie.
Absolutely. We, you talk about Aki, that in one of our previous episodes of Food Stories, we did the chef, our speaker then shared how to prepare Aki and saltfish. And so it was really lovely and just sort of harvesting the Aki and what to look for and then how to prepare it. So it's exciting to see how our food has been sort of traveling from place to place.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So on that note, I'm just curious if you'd like to share a little bit about Chef Kareema's Caribbean Fusion, and you can tell us a little bit about sort of what you do now. You have this catering company. Maybe if you want to share a little bit about the catering company, what you do, the types of foods people can expect to get from it, and you can just share a little bit about that. Thanks.
Well, yes, I am a catering-based company. I did open up a restaurant during the pandemic, and I closed it during the pandemic because it's a pandemic. And I would whole different story. We will not go there today. So I did do that, but my catering is what I love to do. So, like I said, I love doing fusion type food. So my spring rolls, I have my own Caribbean style spring rolls. There's actually saltfish, there's curry goat, there's jerk chicken rice and peas, and that's just the spring rolls. And then I have the macaroni pie, but then I make a macaroni pie ball. So if you just deep fry it, so good. Then we have traditional lasagna, but then also have on the menu jerk chicken lasagna. So there's always a little bit of everything. I have pepper shrimp, I have regular shrimp, So my catering menu, you can never just if I was to really list everything, it'd be like a cookbook, right? So it's really when I speak to an individual or a client, potential client, we talk about what it is they're looking for. And if it's typically something that I say stay away from what you normally eat. Don't cater what you always eat. Don't cater rice and peas if you always eat rice and peas, right? Do something else. If you always only eat Italian food, stay away from that. Try something different. Try something new. And 9 out of 10 times, they love it. Some people are very stubborn and want to just stick to this is all I eat. This is it, right? So I really try to like get them out of their comfort zone and show them different ways or different foods that they haven't had before. Some people never had goat. Some people never had an oxtail, but they eat beef, but then had oxtail. And one person told me the reason why he doesn't eat oxtail, he goes, I don't eat slave food. So he's like, when I found out what it was, I refused to eat it because it was slave food. Because that's all they used to give the enslaved, the enslaved, right? They would give them the rest of, not the best part of, but the rest of. But funny enough now, oxtail is very, 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 very expensive because now everyone wants to eat oxtail. It is very expensive. But before, they would just throw it, just give the scrap. So there's some people that just don't eat certain things because of the stigma behind it, So I try to, teach it. I may not call it food stories, but I try to teach as I'm cooking or talking to a potential client about food.
Absolutely, because oftentimes, like folks, like you said, you get in your comfort zone. You know what you like. You know what you're familiar with. Sorry, hold on. There we go. You know what you're familiar with, and so this is what I wanted to do. Oh no. Here we go. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, so you know what you're familiar with, but in the same time, then you can be missing out on lots of really great opportunities. And then ironically enough, like the food that was kind of looked at as like these are like the offcuts and the things that are discarded are actually the things that are very actually high in nutrients, packed with energy, and actually
Watermelon,
really good for you. Yeah. So that same
watermelon.
watermelon. Oh, what? Okay,
One
tell
of
me about
the
watermelon.
one of the watermelon and fried chicken is such a stigma on American mostly, but watermelon, that's what they would just give them just the fruit. Sometimes they didn't even get any, but the enslaved they would get the fruit, mostly watermelon, and they would be outside, and they had some form of nutrients. It may have been scraps, but they were still getting nutrients. Where the masters weren't eating any fruit; they were just eating meats and meats and meats and meats and dying young. Where the the enslaved were stronger, clearly, and even though they were getting scraps, they were getting the nutrients, the nutrition scraps, right? So to a degree, depending on where you were, but mostly that's the story behind it. Really. That's the story behind that a little bit, right? So you
Yeah.
can kind of figure that out. Come in, it's okay.
Oh, we have some folks joining.
Yep, it's okay. No one can see you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so with your so yeah, so watermelon, those end cuts and things like that. Yeah, so if you take a look at it, like so something like oxtail is very full and rich in like collagen. And
Mhm.
so or gelatin, and gelatin turns into collagen like once it's dissolved. And that's actually
Right,
very good for you. It's good for your hair, your skin. It gives you energy, helps you it just like sustains you. So this is a really, that's actually it was a very healthy food. And the same with like sort of ground provisions. So ground provisions were they're very resilient vegetables, and so they're able
right,
to, and we call them like root vegetables here in Canada,
right.
right? So
Yes,
same kind of deal. But the root vegetables or ground provisions, they're very resilient crops, and so they can last and they grow through many things. But they're extremely high in fiber. They're really high in B vitamins. B vitamins contribute to energy and to giving you like motivation and stuff to go and to keep going and sustaining for a much longer time. They're extremely filling and they produce a lot of energy, right? So
right,
these are actually like perfect foods, right? For people to be
right.
enjoying.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
some people they do there is a little bit of stigma on it. I love a watermelon. You can't tell me any different. Watermelon is delicious, and I love fried chicken too. So
Fried
right,
chicken speaks to my soul. Anyone who knows me knows that.
right, a good fried chicken, boy. Woo-wee.
So I agree with that 100%. Um, okay, so I'm just wondering, so there's a lot of challenges I know that you encountered. You said you started your business, your not your business, but your restaurant during COVID. It ended
Yep.
during COVID. The one thing that I sort of got from you from that experience was just a sense of community of folks who were kind of surrounding and supporting you. Can you share a little bit about what sort of community and food mean to you?
Well, for this one, me opening the restaurant, and there's so much vandalism, so much vandalism that happened there. And when this particular weekend, which it was a weekend, Saturday and a Sunday, my restaurant got vandalized. So both days, the community rallied together without even letting me know, really, and either started a GoFundMe or started a rally and came out support. It got all over the place, and I'm very, very grateful for all of those people. Someone said, "Well, you give so much to others, we have to give back to you." And they said that because when the pandemic started last year in March, myself and a few other people were volunteering at the Jamaican Canadian Association for those displaced students, that international students that couldn't go back home, for the seniors that would normally go down to the JCA to eat. We started volunteering for 7.5 months every weekend to feed the community. So when that happened to me, a lot of the community came out to support me just off of that. And then off of the fact that I got my place got vandalized. Um, a lot of other things occurred, and it just became a little bit too much to handle. I shut it down because I really did. I haven't told a lot of people this, but I really didn't recoup financially after that vandalism. I stayed as long as I could, and then I realized we're good. We are good.
Yeah,
So I shut it down at the end of September, and I just been doing catering and like I never stopped doing catering, so I've always been doing that. So thankfully, I'm still able to be employed in some way. But yes,
absolutely.
that really did hurt my feelings. But you know, next chapter, you pivot and figure things out.
Yeah, and then exactly. Like I think that that's 100% admirable. Just even to receive it in that way. So on one hand, it's like the support of the community is really inspiring to know that how much like supporting, and it's amazing because it's like through preparing food and your generosity and willingness to do so, then that opened up other people's that opened up for other people to be able to to reciprocate and to offer that same generosity to you with food at the center of all of that. So
Right.
it's just like a good reminder to us, like that's how we can support each other, knowing when there's challenging times that we can hop in, and even just preparing a meal for someone is like it's like life-giving in many different ways.
And I love if I can have no money, I always have food. And if I can feed you, I will feed you. If I've said it over the years, if I could do this for free, if I was rich, I would be doing this for free.
Yeah.
I'm not rich yet.
It's just a matter of
So I
time,
still have
just
to
a matter of
charge,
time.
still have to charge, still have to charge. But yeah, food is life, and no one should starve, and
That's,
and no one should not have nutritious food options. There should always be at least an option there for you. If you don't want to eat that, that's fine. But the option of nutritious food should always be there for people.
I agree with that 100%. Um, yeah, like no one should go without, for sure. And it's just a testament like that, that you took that, like part of that on as your personal responsibility, to even if you could serve a handful of people or hundreds of people or whatever it was, because even if it's one person, right, like that one person, if you have the opportunity to help that person have access to that nutritious food, then we're doing good for each other, and that community
Exactly,
is really important.
exactly. So on a note, let me just show you the finished product.
It's ready. That looks delicious.
So I didn't say on here. I know it's in the recipe. Oh, you're welcome. Um, uh, but 25 to 30 minutes or until golden brown, depending on your oven, right? So I'm just going to stick it back in there. Just wanted you all to see it, and we're all finished
That's
on that.
gorgeous. That
Yeah.
is gorgeous.
So from
Um,
start to finish, it's like an hour, 15 minutes. You want to grate the cheese. You could buy shredded cheese. You could
mhm.
grate the cheese, boil the pasta. Yeah, probably an hour. Probably not even an hour, 15 minutes. An hour from start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I like about the hour is it's not like an active hour, it's just an hour. It's
Yeah.
like you do a
Yeah.
little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah, so that's
Exactly.
perfect.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right. So, Chef Kareema, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna share your like how to connect with you. Maybe you can let us know how to connect with you, and then Dallin can type that in the chat.
Okay.
I think we're looking good for today. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you
Oh,
for
no problem.
sharing
You're welcome.
your perspective on food and sort of your recipe with us. It's just been an absolute pleasure for us to talk to you today. So maybe you can let us know. You can let us know, how can we connect with you?
Um, I could tell you how to make a decent mac and cheese. Hold on, Maxine. I'll get back to that in a
Okay,
second.
we got a question.
So
Any thoughts on how to make a decent vegan mac and cheese?
let me tell you something. My vegan mac and cheese, and I'm gonna share it with you. So everything you saw here, and the recipe that she's gonna send you. So I'll substitute the dairy milk for coconut milk or almond milk or cashew, but coconut milk is thicker, so I would go with that. Normally they say I use egg in here. Normally they say when you use eggs, substitute it with banana or apricot. Don't do that. You don't even have to do that. I'm just saying, you're going to see the recipe and you're going to want to substitute. Don't do that. What you do is make a nice cheese sauce. So I'm going to tell you what to do with the cheese sauce. So it's vegan butter, flour on the stove, make it into like a little pasty, like a paste. And then you're going to add your non-dairy milk, coconut milk. Make it, look like a sauce. You add your vegan cheese, and you're seasoning it the same way that you're going to season everything. And then you add your elbow macaroni. If you just want mac and cheese, done. If you want to bake it, just add your breadcrumbs on top with some more cheese. Good to go. So coconut milk and vegan cheese. No eggs and no egg substitute. And you got yourself an awesome, delicious vegan mac and cheese.
Do you have a favorite kind of vegan cheese that you like to use?
I don't like any that have soy in it. So I try to see the ones that don't have soy. So anyone, as long as it doesn't have any soy in it, you're pretty good. The ones that have soy, I feel like it doesn't melt as nicely.
Okay.
As the nut-based ones. So cashew based or what's another one?
There's a coconut-based cheese that I've seen before. Have you used that?
Really? No, I have not.
I'll
find it, let me know.
have to find the name of it, but we did have some at one point, so I'll have to find the name.
Is that the Violife one?
Yeah, that's it. Vital
Okay.
Life.
Violife? Okay, thank you, Dalen. And now I'll give you my my Instagram, which is the best one to get me at. So it's you have this is Chef Kareema, but my main one is I am Chef Kareema.
I am Chef Kareema. Okay, so I am Chef Kareema on Instagram. There is her link, folks. You can hop in. Yeah, so you got a comment from Nancy saying that she loves the cashew-based cheese.
How did I get muted?
Yeah, you can make a. I can hear you now.
I can't hear you.
Oh. I think she lost us.
What happened? There you are. I can hear you.
Okay. I'm like,
Yeah, so did you hear that? Did you hear the I am Chef Kareema?
Yes.
Okay.
So Dallin shared the link in the chat. So you definitely want to get in contact with her. Hey, the holidays are coming up. So if anyone has any catering needs, we can definitely point them your way. I wanted to say a big, huge thank you for coming out today and just sharing your food story. We got some great comments. Thank you. That was fantastic conversation. Thank you, Chef Kareema and Chef Maxine.
You're welcome.
And yeah, it was just a really pleasure talking to you, getting to know you a little bit, hearing a little bit about what you had to share. And we just look forward to our paths crossing again soon.
Next time you're cooking.
Okay, done. I will cook next time. I did get to enjoy some of Chef Kareema's delights. Prior to the restaurant closing, I have not yet tried her catering, but my first experience was very good. My son ate up all of his plate, so
yes, he did.
Yes,
I
he
remember.
did.
Yes, he did.
He did very well. We had a little bit of everything off the menu.
Thank you. No, you did, and I thank you for that. It was great meeting you in person. So thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you for all your energy and knowledge. Love the global and history connections. Just a lot of thank yous. Thank you for sharing. That was great. Yeah. So lots of great sort of comments and everything. Folks, it was a pleasure just hanging with you this afternoon. We're gonna tuck out just a tiny bit early today because we got macaroni pie ready to be eaten at Chef Kareema's house.
Come on, I got a good piece there, a good dish. So come on.
But yeah, so thank you for everyone who's coming, for everyone who's going to be watching the recording. I'm glad that you also were able to participate, and we will definitely be in touch. And I want to thank everyone for coming, and we will see you all soon. Take care.
Thank you, Maxine. Thank you, Dalen. Thank you, everyone. Had a great time.
Thank you. Have a good night.